Hello, true art believers. This is Pearson here, and welcome to this week's installment of the Artist Interview Series. Today, I have Miss Karlana Pedersen. How are you doing, Karlana?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Did that sound too scripted? I actually had to stop for a second. I had to pause and say, how are you doing today, Karlana? I wanted to enunciate the name just perfectly because I was worried that I was going to mess it up just miserably, and then I was worried about that. So
It sounded great.
I'm very thankful for that. I'm going to write that in my journal tonight. I did not mess up Karlana Pedersen's name, and I'll put
Thank
a little
you.
asterisk on it, and I'll be maybe a couple smiley faces, and I'll be good. Karlana, so you're doing good today, right?
I am.
So you were just saying that. Is this true? This is true. You're just saying you had 1 hour, like before we were chatting up, which is why we're all late. We're late. We're a couple five minutes later, so 7 minutes late. You said that you had 1 hour sleep, like 1 hour sleep today.
I have.
Yeah, and what was that time frame from? What was that 1 hour sleep at?
I sort of gave up on everything at about 3 a.m. Well, I would say a little bit more, but it felt like an hour. So I went to bed around 3, I guess.
Okay.
And I woke up at around 6:30. So it's a little bit more than, yeah, but I was up and down. So I didn't really sleep that well. So I'm a night owl to begin with. So I got to do better. I've got to do better at reining in the overnight stuff, because I feel like I'm just more creative to begin with, and then when something comes up and I need to be up, it doesn't seem to bother me, and it probably should bother me a little bit more.
Yeah. So normally, how do you begin your day, Karlana? Like, what's the deal with the morning? Like, how does that function for you?
Well, being a night owl, mornings aren't so great sometimes. I have 3 kids, older kids, but the 2 younger boys, high school and middle school. So middle school is, we've got COVID going on, of course. And so the youngest is in hybrid school about 2 days a week. So he's, we're up at 6:30 in the morning, and normally we would every single day be up at 6:30 in the morning. So that's a normal thing in the morning to get up because you've got school with kids. I mean, you have kids, right?
Yeah, I have one. She's not in school yet, but she will be.
How old?
2. She'll be there soon. Yeah.
Oh, I love that age. Yes. So I find that I am way more creative and turned on in terms of my brain at night. So I go through like a cycle where I'm up in the morning and I've got to be up and I've got to get the kids ready. And so I have that. And then somewhere in the afternoon, I'll have maybe a cup of coffee or something to kind of keep me going. Yeah. And then literally at 7 o'clock, my brain just sort of turns on. But that's when I should actually be trying to get myself to go to bed. But I find that if I've been working on something mentally, I put it to the side, and I feel like it's still on autopilot working. And then 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock hits, I'm like, I got it, and I start to process all over again. And yeah, it's not. I think it causes some friction sometimes because you're living 2 different ends of the cycle per se. Can be a little.
Do you have a day that you? Do you have a day or time that you catch up on sleep ever?
I used to. Sundays, that was all of everybody in the house. That was kind of their day. Someday on the weekends, depending on what the schedule is, it was either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday where you could just sleep in and catch up. And now that I am not a teenager anymore, I feel like I can't really sleep well past 6 hours anyway. Like my body is sort of adjusted itself that if I'm sleeping like 8 hours, I wake up with headaches. I end up not feeling as well. So it's kind of weird. So I think it's not necessarily how long I sleep as much as it is the quality of the sleep that I'm getting. And then that is determined on when I go to bed a lot of times. So like I had 3 hours of sleep last night, but it wasn't quality sleep. So yeah. So I'm aware of it and trying, doing my best to make those changes, because I think it's better for your health if you regulate yourself to some degree.
Are you into health and fitness?
My husband is a runner. I'm sorry. He is into fitness. I run. I love to run. I have in the past. I haven't as much as I used to. He loves to cycle. And so, yes, there's been, there's always this sense. And my daughter, she loves running, and she takes care of herself. And my boys are into sports. So there's always this healthy, there's always this healthy aspect throughout the household. And we always do our best to watch what we're eating and to move and to stay active. I think that's really important. I probably don't do like the traditional workouts anymore as much, but I do enjoy making sure that I'm doing something for my health.
Like, what do you usually do for your like that's something for your health? What kind of things what does that entail, Karlana?
Right now I like just doing basic calisthenics, and I know they used to call them calisthenics, but literally it's just the basics. A few times a week I do, push-ups and crunches. I have like a set of activities and workouts that I do. And I find that if I don't do it in the morning, by the time the day goes on, I've just, I'm done. It doesn't work for me. So I try to do it right when I work out or get up in the morning to start my workout. And if it's more than, I have to say, I'm only going to do it for 30 minutes. Because if I go into it thinking that I'm going to do it longer than 30 minutes, I'm not motivated to do it anymore. So I say, I'm just going to work out for 30 minutes. And it ends up being longer most of the time. But mentally, I look at my watch and I say, okay, I know I can fit 30 minutes of something. So I go down there and I just do something. And I try to just do something every day. And it works for me.
I once heard a like this health guru, or like health, I don't know what you would call it, fitness person, who was trying to get his clients to work out, and he was saying he was trying to break the perception of what a workout is. Like he would have clients that would get memberships at gyms, and then the membership, their expectations, they'd fall past their expectations because they're thinking they're going to go like they're back in high school, and maybe they went to had a football, they played in a football team, and then like they thought they were going to just like do power cleans for an hour and a half, but they've been on a 20-year hiatus, and McDonald's has been their favorite food of choice for the last decade, and then they think they can just jump back in and not have any problem whatsoever. Then they find out that it's a lot harder than it really was, and they don't even do anything. So like months later, they come back. They're like, "So how'd you do, Mr. Wheeler?" Well, I did not go to the gym at all. I was going to go 30 minutes a day, and I just drove past the gym to the Dairy Queen and Burger King right next to each other, and I thought they'd be, marry them, and then I'd have whatever it was. And he's like, "Well, you know what you need to do? You just do this. Just do this. I got an exercise routine that's really easy. It's really easy. It's like it was like some push-ups and like playing some simple exercise. It's like, do this for 5 minutes a day, or do this every 3 times a week, 5 minutes. And the guy's like, I can't do that. That's like, I'm not going to break a sweat. It's going to be too easy. But eventually, he started doing it, and it changes the mindset. So it's interesting that you say that you try to do something every day, and then you you're like, I'm going to work out for 30 minutes, and it ends up being a little bit more, you know. And there's something that I think there's something to say about that. I think that's very interesting. I have I have a fascination with that type of mentality. And maybe if you'd like, could you care to talk about that a little bit more? Does that apply to other things in your life? Like, I'm going to do this just for this amount of time, or I'm going to do this. For me, it's like, I'm going to do the dishes for a minute.
Just for a minute.
Just for a minute. I'll get 2 dishes, and I'll be like, that's better than nothing. So what about you, Karlana?
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. I would say yes. I would say yes, because you've got to start somewhere. I think that I think sometimes, especially if you're a creative or someone who thinks creatively or is artistic, I notice that I can get overwhelmed by a whole bunch of great ideas.
Yeah.
And I feel like I am that I enjoy using the left and the right side of my brain, in the sense that I can take all of the great ideas or clutter in my head and isolate it. And if it's too overwhelming, because sometimes I think as creatives we can see the big picture on things, we get lost in the picture. We get lost in that because it can be overwhelming and you don't know where to start. And I have boiled down a system for myself where I say, what is it that I really want to do out of this great idea? What is it that is the most important that needs to be accomplished, whether it's a goal or whether it's something that that has to be finished or completed? And then I say, if I can't do that or get to the next step in 7 steps, like I will say, it should be able to happen in 7 steps for me. And then I write down what those 7 steps are to push myself to that next frame, that next reference, that next point. And then if it takes another 7 steps to continue, then that's fine. But I usually boil everything down to the first 7 steps. And I find that has really helped me isolate what's the most important. Because if you're looking at something that's too big, you're not going to get it all accomplished in just 7 steps, obviously. But if you can break it down to where you can and what you need to do to just push that envelope further and further, or push that project further and further, then that's, for me, the 7 steps works really well. And then I feel like I have a sense of accomplishment when I've done, because I was able to finish those 7 steps. Now I can move on to phase 2 or phase 3 and take that into the next 7 steps and then the next 7 steps. So it seems maybe it doesn't work for everyone. It works for me. And at some point within that project or within that scope, I don't necessarily need those 7 steps anymore. I can say, okay, now I'm at a point where this is manageable and I can go about actually putting this into production or putting this into my normal workflow per se. So yeah, I do that all the time, actually.
Do you write down those 7 steps, like literally?
Oh yeah.
Do you have like a journal?
I'm hyper organized.
Yeah, I noticed that. You should like teach me some like 3 things I need to be doing to be hyper organized, because I'm fascinated with that as well, because people think a lot of these skills just like are just and there I believe there's some individuals, but like I also believe that a lot of these skills are learned. Being organized is you have an innate skill you may have an innate skill to do things right off the bat better, but you can always improve. And thinking about being organized, a person who's disorganized can become organized, but the person that says they're disorganized as like a crutch to say, oh, that's why everything's always hectic. Well, you can learn these skills. I like when I was a kid, my room was a mess, but it's still a mess, but for different reasons, because I don't have because I have a maelstrom of a child running around throwing things, and I'm like, oh, I don't have time.
Count. When you've got kids, it doesn't count. Doesn't
like,
count.
I can't pick her.
They're never going to be on your plan, on your organizational plan.
Yeah, no, I can't pick up fast enough. So you write down those 7. Do you have like what do? You have a journal? Do you like where do your 7 steps kind of come to play?
I do write it down. I'm so used to typing that when I write things down, I don't want to say it bothers me, but it feels incomplete. So I will write it down. My favorite book to write in is a Rocket book. I don't know if you've heard of Rocket book. Literally, you can write. Do I have one here? I don't. But you can write it. You can write whatever you need to have done. And literally, it's an app in your phone. And you can take a picture of it and it will shoot it to any cloud service you have. And you can save that handwritten note or drawing or doodle or whatever it is you physically wrote with a pen. And I think it's been invaluable because a lot of times I will have brainstorm ideas. I will write things down and now I can take a picture of it and then I can offload it from my brain. So what I do is I send it into the cloud and I file it, and then I can go back into my system and type it up and look for a specific word, and it will bring all my ideas back up. And then I can say, oh, yes, that's right. I remember having that conference with so-and-so. And I can remember everything that I did without having to stress about letting it go in my brain. And then for my 7 steps, when I'm writing those things down, for me, I create a process because I know if I have to come back to it. So if it's not a one-off idea that I can send off to the cloud and query later, then I create a process for it. And then I save that process as a template that I reuse so that all I need the next time is to press a button on my computer and it brings up my template. And then I can use that template for every organizational aspect that I need that I'm trying to accomplish. So it allows me to do a lot of different things quickly without having to reinvent the wheel every time. So that's kind of how I use this, my process of when I am organizing my thoughts or my goals or things that I need to do.
Do you have any, do you order goals weekly, monthly, yearly, like 6-month range? What do you have a process like that for that? I
do. I have a daily, weekly, and a monthly, and an annual process. So every day I wake up, I know what I need to do and what I need to accomplish for that day so that I can get what I need to have done in a very short amount of time. And then the same thing for the week. I can look through my calendar a week in a glance and see, okay, the age of technology allows me to do things that maybe were a little bit difficult in the past. And the biggest advantage is the calendar system. Now I can literally move things in and out of a day with little effort, and I can talk into my phone and shoot something in without spending a lot of time plotting and planning. So that's been helpful. So yes, I have a day, a week, and a month. And then on the side of my wall near my desk is my annual of what I need to do for the year to get it done. And I know, 6 months, 3 months, quarterly, what has to happen for me to reach whatever goal it is that I'm trying to reach. Yeah.
So
I'm hyper. I'm hyper organized.
So where did you I've listened to a lot of hyper efficiency podcasts and stuff like that. Were these skills learned, or were they innate? Or where'd you pick them up from?
Well, I was raised in a very chaotic environment when I was little, and it didn't work out well for me. So I knew at a young age, I was very driven, and I knew what I needed to do to accomplish my goals. I was emancipated at a young age, and I ended up working 3 jobs and putting myself through school and finishing my degree. And it was not an easy process. It was not an easy life. And so I realized at a young age, if I have these goals and these things that I want to accomplish, it's just going to require discipline. That's first and foremost, but organization. I'm going to have to create something in my brain that will allow me to work with how I like to work and how I know I do best in learning. And the learning part is difficult, because if you learn a certain way and you are not in an environment that teaches that way, it can be a challenge, because you have to retrain yourself to learn how people want to teach you. So a lot of that was retraining myself and my brain, in a sense, to just accept and figure out how best to learn from how people wanted to teach me. And that worked. It worked out, and sometimes it did and sometimes it didn't. I think how I really learned was through school, through my experiences, and then through work. I learned a lot of organization being in corporate for a period of time, which is sort of not what you'd probably expect from me in terms of a job, but I was in corporate for a little bit, and I really learned how to manage. And that was, I think, a very beneficial experience for me, because I took that and went back, and took courses on business and marketing and everything else, and used those skills. And that's what I kind of go off of right now in running my own business.
What are some goals you're focusing on for this month?
Oh, for this month, really, we're rolling out a podcast next week.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yes, so that's our debut podcast. Ryan Caldwell and myself. Ryan is a musician and music producer, and we are debuting our podcast next Thursday. So it has that's been a project for both of us. And so on top of us being, very busy with life and family and relationships and kids, and I have kids, he does not, but that's been our focus for this month, is really getting that process, because we're both process and production minded. So getting that process to the point where we can use our templates of what we need and slide in and out of our daily routine so that it can be more of a cohesive machine. I don't want to say machine, but yeah, running the process smoothly. So it takes a lot of effort to get to that point. So that's really been our focus over the last several months, is getting to that point where we are ready to roll it out. And that's what's been going on this month, in addition to my art gallery, selling my art, working on commissions, and some various projects that I've got going on with private clients. So got all the stuff juggling in the air, I guess you could say.
What was the 7 steps for the first 7 steps for that podcast, like launching that or getting that ready? What was like the first 7 steps?
Oh gosh, the first 7 steps. I honestly, I'm trying to remember what the very first, it honestly, it came about sort of, it wasn't really planned initially. It sort of just presented itself, and it morphed into what it is now. So the first 7, I really think got readjusted several times because it was right before COVID, I want to say, really kind of hit, and we kind of had to figure this whole thing out again. We had a whole different format for the show, and it really took on a completely different role. So I can't list what those first ones were. I mean, the first obvious ones were, I think once we decided we were going to do a podcast, was, simple things like secure the name, secure the format, secure the website, a URL, which we did, figure out how we were going to present the show. Originally, we were going to do it in person and do it live that way. And then COVID hit, and then we had to redesign the show. I think number 5 would have been create a template, a process production template. 6 had to have been identifying our target audience. That was something that we really worked on for quite a bit of time, the format and identifying the target audience. And number 7 was important, was what was the overall goal of the show. So we knew we wanted to do the show. We had an idea for the show. We didn't have a name. We didn't have an exact format. We didn't have, a secured URL, and none of the collateral was done, of course, at that time, or the marketing, branding, or anything at that time. So in the very early stages, I think that was like the first 7 things that we really were focusing on. And that really, that beginning was, what do we want to give back? What is it that we're trying to do? Yeah. And that was the core of what really needed to be fleshed out before any of us felt comfortable getting in front of a mic.
Are you excited about it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Because we've done all our legwork. We've done all of our research. We've done all of our marketing research. We've done all of our due diligence. We've talked to artists, and I've talked to so many people about the various questions that were the foundation of the type of podcast we wanted to do, and it guided us from that. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. Can't wait. Yeah, it's a
Do
long
you have a
haul.
3-month goal? Do you have a 3-month goal?
Oh yeah, it's a long-term goal that's probably broken down into the first 3 months. So I would say it's more of a larger goal that's been broken down. Sure, absolutely.
So, are you into comics? Have you watched? Do you read comic books, or have you watched any of the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Oh yeah, I'm a huge Marvel. I'm a huge Marvel fan. I grew up with all of the Marvel comics. My sister was DC and I was Marvel. And I had probably 20 or 30 what I realize now was rare comic books. Some first and second editions of different series. And I wish I had those because they would probably be really worth a lot now. And a couple of them were signed by Stan Lee. And yeah, I knew all of those characters. And my sister was a fantastic artist. She drew her own fantasy characters, and they were just, I was in awe of her artistry. So we had a lot of reference from that type of art. And yeah, I when Marvel started with the first series, cinematic series, the movies, I was, all my kids, well, maybe not my daughter, but my boys, we are deep into Marvel and DC. So absolutely. It's a lot of fun.
Like the first movies before they merged them into an actual universe, or so
We've
like,
seen all
Ghost
of them.
Rider. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen the very first Fantastic Four movie
Yeah.
that never released?
Yeah, I saw it.
How about the Captain America one? That
Yep.
was released. That was interesting. Like, that was an interesting one.
We have all of them. We have all the movies on DVD. The ones that are actually in the series, the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
Starting from the very first Iron Man to the only thing that we don't have is the last one that they just put out. The very last one. We don't have that one yet. But yeah, we've seen all of them. I don't think there's one that we haven't seen yet. So
the reason why I was asking is I was talking to a student, and I was asking him, I was like, so do you got any big plans for the day? And the student was like, well, the student was like, well, the new Call of Duty game is coming out tonight, or dropping tonight, and I'm either going to play that all night, of course, or I'm going to play the new Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man game with Miles. Yeah,
Miles Morales. Yes.
I'm going to play the new Spider-Man game with Miles Morales, and I was asking him, hey, are the origin stories the same? And they're like, what do you mean? Like, do the Spider-Man still get bit by a spider, or like a radioactive spider, or is it like a little bit different? Like, well, it's about the same. And the reason why I was asking that, Karlana, is if you imagine yourself like you're a superhero, but you're not. You're probably a superhero to a lot of people, right? Like, you're not like you're throwing boulders at people or lifting cars over your head and twirling it around your finger. But if your life was a comic book superhero, life, I don't know, like your story was a comic book in the form of a comic book, right? What would be your origin story be? right? Because I was looking at your profile, and you kind of dived in a little bit, but you had some really interesting stuff happen to you, or like you were a commercial model. Was that? Am I right?
Yeah.
And like, what is like? Talk about that in the guise of like being a superhero, or don't even talk about that. Let's talk about your origin story a little bit more.
In the sense of, I feel like I've lived several different lives already. Yeah, I'm originally from Chicago, and my mom kind of got me into doing commercials when I was younger, because she used to say, everybody, you were so cute when you were little. Everybody said you should be in commercials. So then she kind of started, putting me into commercials and stuff. And I think I started around, I don't know, 12 or somewhere in there. And yeah, I did that for a little bit. And when I eventually emancipated, I ended up really sort of diving into more of the entertainment aspects of it, because obviously I needed an apartment, I needed a job, and I needed to stay in school. So I was determined not to drop out. And this was this was really my last year of high school. And I was a 4.0 student prior to sort of like this big boulder dropped onto my life per se, and things just sort of gotten crushed under the weight. I was determined to finish as best as I could without damaging my my grades and everything else. And I feel like I succeeded, and I was able to go to Art Institute. And I ended up going to the Art Institute, and I had an opportunity while I was at the Art Institute. Across the street from Art Institute of Chicago, the School of the Art Institute of Chicago is Columbia. And at this time, this was years ago, of course, Columbia had a internship, a sister program with SAIC across the street. And someone said, I went to the Chicago Chicago Art School, high school in Chicago, and I majored in art and music. And so I went to Art Institute. They said, you should check out the sister program at Columbia. They have a production program. So I did. And so I ended up interning for several recording studios in Chicago. And all of the entire time I was, working as a model during the day, and doing gigs at night, producing as an internship for the first, I'd say 8 months or 9 months, and then going to school during the day, and being a performance artist also. Also, I could pay for school and continue my education. So I was working like 3 jobs. And so that's kind of what I did. And being in the entertainment industry at that time, I got paid really good money. The hours were relatively short for a lot of the projects that I did, unless I was doing a big, some sort of extra job or production work. And the time was flexible, so it allowed me to continue school. So yeah, I did that for a while. And eventually I got a full-time job being a sound engineer for the after the internship with Columbia was over. I ended up staying on as a freelance sound engineer for several of the Chicago studios, and I spliced reel-to-reel audio tape, and I was working with all male engineers. I was the only female engineer in the country there was only 2 other women that we knew of that was working as a sound audio engineer for any studio in the country at the time. And I lasted 3 years. And then I ended up moving on. It was it was a really tough industry, but I'm proud of what I did. So I met a lot of great people. And that's sort of part of my my origin story.
Did you get any superpowers?
Yeah, I feel like I did. I learned a lot. I feel like if you learn something, that's your superpower. I feel like education and knowledge is the superpower. No matter what happens, it sounds cliche, but no matter what happens in your life, no one can ever take away, you hear that before. No one can ever take away what you know. But the best part about you can use what you know. And that's, to me, has always been like the best superpower, because I can find anything out. I can learn how to do it, and if I focus on it, and if that's what I want to do, I feel like I can accomplish that just simply by educating and figuring out a way to educate myself or to receive that education, to move forward with those goals. And I feel like that's the superpower. So yeah, I wouldn't trade that for anything.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Karlana, like, I had a question that had like with education. You mentioned this a few times, where I'm getting the impression that you maybe have like a certain way of learning. Is that true, or is it?
No, maybe when I was younger, I just think that I don't think so. I think that I'm aware of situations. My mom was a pianist. My dad was a pianist, and I come from a creative background. My sister is an artist, and I feel like sometimes when you have creativity, that there can be challenges to learning. Sometimes people do learn differently. And I think that, yeah, maybe sometimes, depending on what the subject is, there has been, or maybe some challenges. I don't feel like it's been a hindrance. And I wouldn't even know. When I was younger, I think I might have had a little bit of dyslexia, where I know that like numbers and things would jump a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like I grew out of it. So when I was younger, I remember having those kinds of weird looking at the paper and like, why are the numbers dancing? That can't be good. So yeah, and that doesn't happen to me anymore. But I can definitely see how there could be challenges to people who need to learn differently than what's presented for the mass public, for the general public, per se.
Karlana, how do you like right now, like, how do you educate yourself? What information are you seeking currently to improve yourself?
Am I doing specifically, or just in general?
You can go from general to specific, or you can just be, as broad as you like.
I always try to dig a little deeper in whatever it is I need to research or learn, or to discover. Whatever the subject matter is, I do my best to kind of look at what it is in front of me, as opposed to just maybe taking, the face value of something. I've always been curious, and I like to sort of get behind the details of things. So I like to read. I love to read. I don't feel as if I've had a lot of opportunity to read as much as I want, especially with the kids being home lately, and so many things going on with COVID and with home, remote learning. And that's been more of a challenge, I feel like, than I expected. It's sometimes I think everyone's feeling this way. It's overwhelming. And I think that you lose a little bit of your quiet time, of course. So I haven't had as much of an opportunity to sit down with a book and to dial in and focus on a subject matter the way I normally would, per se. But with that said, I feel like I've been able to improvise. And so I like this concept of audiobooks. And
they're awesome.
Yeah. And if I listen to a podcast, it is specific to what I'm trying to research. And I feel like that's been so helpful, because I can move about my day and still be present with the kids and do what I need to do with them. A lot of times it's just a matter of me doing chores or helping them do some sort of chores, as opposed to having, deep, they've got their headpieces on or their earphones too, because they are doing the same thing. They're like doing schoolwork and they're listening to something that is for school or whatever. And so I take that time to do that as well during those days. I try to stay on top of things in that way, especially if there's something I want to research. It's hard to sit down with a book.
Yeah. There's like being an adult is hard. Like, we don't have time.
Adulting is hard.
Yeah, like where's the time to sit down and read? There's not enough time. Like
I miss that. I do miss that.
I once had this like grand idea, like I'm gonna all these people I see these these YouTube videos, like I read a book for a week, I read a book a week for the whole year, and this is what happened. I'm like, I might read one book a year, but I'll listen to about 20 books.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, I actually probably absorb more of it because I'll listen to it a couple times. But like with reading, I just find like to me it can be like words are boring. That's what I think. It's like because I have to like really contemplate it, and I think when I hear it, I contemplate it a little bit better, right? Like because I'm having to focus on something and look at these objects, and I'm treating them like I'm treating it like a drawing where I'm trying to focus on the word, and then I got to think about what that word means. And I think when just hearing it allows me to think about it a little bit more passively, maybe, and that's why I enjoy audiobooks. So yeah, I totally vouch for that. With as far as learning stuff, although with podcasts and listening to stuff on YouTube, it can just turn into like a giant like vacuum. Like, oh, like I don't need to be listening to all this other stuff. Like it like if you like this, then you might like this. Like, well, I kind of like it, so like they're like a few steps away from like my interests. So okay, I kind of like health and fitness, so this might be something that's mainly this person talking about. Well, it doesn't mean anything like this. So I totally get it. Yeah, I have a huge fascination with as an artist, at least for me, in my perspective, as a teacher, like you see a lot of students that are either really, really, really organized. And I was like, man, I was when I was their age, I was like, oh, I wish I was like that. I gathered those skills early because I would be so much better off, right? And then you have the ones that are like, well, these are more like what I did. Like I probably worked as hard or harder than them, but it was always like at a state of disarray. So it wasn't because I was like working harder than I was probably working harder, but not really smarter. So I'm always very intrigued about like how people learn. What are people doing with their time, and being hyper organized. As I've gotten older, like I see that my time is it's shrinking, so I gotta I'm like, how can I maximize this time right here, this little small sliver, the rest of the area right here, this the whole day. There's some stuff that I need to do, but I know I cannot do any of the stuff that I need to do at this time. This is my diagram bio. So like
It's
this is
very
like I have
familiar.
like this is 2 hours of time. They got to crunch basically 12 hours of work. How do I get this done? And then I have like the whole day right here. The whole day is like, oh man, I wish I could spend the whole day on this on 2 hours of time. If I could spend 2 hours, like if I could do the amount of work I did in the whole day, I'd have like 4 days of work done, and I don't have that free time, like, so I totally understand. It's really interesting to hear, and quite interesting stuff, man. I really thank you for sharing. Let's go back to the 7 steps of creation, of art creation,
7 steps of
creating something. What are your process? What is your process for making work? Is it any work? It could be traditional, digital, etc. Do you have like a set process outside of like the 7 steps, that you would like to kind of share?
Well, I do both. I do both traditional art in the sense of working with acrylics and canvases and paper. And then I enjoy the digital art that I create. And they do different things. And as a result, my processes are different. So the artwork that I do, the acrylic that I work in, it's a little bit more free, I guess.
Okay.
More relaxed and less constrained. Mm-hmm. And the digital, there's a definite process for technology. And when you work in the digital space, I definitely have a system, because what will happen is I can take a canvas and set my paints and my tools, and I can just create.
Yeah.
And then I clean up my brushes and wipe myself, take off my apron and clean up, and it will be there until I get it and or until I sell it. The digital art space is different in the sense that when I want to create something digitally, and I do enjoy doing both a lot, because I feel like it's a very good use of working both sides of my brain, per se. So when I go into the digital sphere, I realize that if I don't have a process, my time is evaporated. It's just gone. Whereas over here with the acrylic paints, there's you have what you have. It's pretty standard, but there is so many variables in the digital space that I've noticed that, you know, the artwork I was doing and everything, not only did I incorrectly format it, you know what I mean? Like the digital stuff, I was just like, whoa, this is fun. When I first started, like some of my really early digital work, you know, I had no sense of, you know, aspect ratio, or how it was being saved, or even how many pixels per inch that artwork had to be if I wanted to blow it up to a certain size. You know, how do I prevent pixelation on, you know, larger sizes over 20 by 30 or 60 by 40? You know what I'm saying? So, so I was creating this artwork just, you know, in the digital sphere without any process. Without, it was just on my canvas, in my computer, just, you know, oh, here, let's put this up now and try to sell it, and not have a full understanding of what needs to happen before you sell it, so that you can sell it as an invisible file becoming a tangible piece of art. And that takes a process. So now, especially since this year, I have my artwork gallery up, and that has taught me so much about really the whole process of creating art digitally, and what that means, not only how it gets marketed in the industry, but what those values are, what that time constraint is, what, you know, how does that get priced, and what does that mean in terms of my creation and my time that it takes to make that one piece of art. So yeah, I had to just sort of, you know, I lobbed everything up on my website there for a little bit, and then literally slowly over the since, you know, I put it up in March, I think, is when my gallery went up. It's been a process, you know, pulling things down, formatting the entire gallery, and all the artwork in it, or just pulling things down that just simply don't work, and reevaluating things, and then creating a process of how to move forward. So now I know, okay, if I'm going to do art, I know which app I need to use. I know why I need to use that app. I know I have a timer. I have to figure out how long it's going to take. And then how is it going to be formatted? That's the biggest thing, is what is this going to look like when it's finished? Because when you work with paint and you work with tools and you have a canvas, you already have your outline, you already have your construct. But when you are in the digital sphere, it can be anything you want. And so you have to have forethought as to, what is this going to look like when it's done? How do I want this to look when it's done? And that's, I have to work backwards when I'm creating digitally in order to get the finished product at the end result of that. So I'm working forward in the acrylics, and I feel like I work backwards in the art sphere, in the digital realm, per se.
So discuss the what do you mean by format? Like, tell that to the audience. Like, what's format? Like, what is that?
Well, format can mean a couple of different things, but I use it in the sense that it can mean process. So my format or my process for creating art is specific. I know that, all right, if I'm going to create a certain style, I know what app or what software or what process I'm going to use in creating it. And then the format is, I have to know kind of what I want the art to look like and to be before I create it digitally. So if I envision like I do pinup art, and I might see someone, you know, in a 1950s kind of dress sitting at the side or on a bar stool with a Coca-Cola in her hand, or whatever the vision I have for the art piece. But I know I want this on canvas, and I want it to be a big piece, like I don't know, 20 by 30 or a 30 by 30 or something of that nature. And I know that I want it to be bright and I want it to be colorful, and definitely canvas. So I want to create this in a stylized way. So I know I'm working backwards now. So I know what my format is before I start. And that format is, it's going to be on canvas. It's going to be brightly colored. It's going to be maybe a matte or a gloss sheen. I have already worked this out in my head before I begin the artwork. And I feel like it's really important for me to do that when I'm working on the digital side, because otherwise you'll miss a step in between and you can't blow it up to that size, or you have to go back in and spend more time because the file isn't correct, because it's not the right ratio, because you didn't have enough, pixels per inch to create that ratio. And so that comes back to not knowing or understanding what your finished product was going to be before you created it, and then knowing how to get to those steps to make it what you want at the end result. Yeah. So for me, I have to work backwards that way, because it's too easy to miss those steps in between. And for me, I write everything down. So I've already written down my checklist. So I know, okay, don't forget that, and don't forget that. And that just keeps me on track. And I know exactly how long it takes to do each piece. So now I know what my price point needs to be for each size that I do for that piece of art. So it all sort of full circle.
So I heard, I'm you can correct me on this. Is it the industry standard for like prints? It's like 300 PPI, and then for like just photos online you want to show, it's 2 PPI. That's what I was what I've gathered from like illustrators. This is what you do. It's 300 PPI. It's just for simplicity's sake, for illustrations, 300 PPI, pixels per inch. And if you're just going to like present this on Instagram, you can have it 72 PPI. Is that like a general, or do you go more technical with it?
In general, you don't want it. Well, when I'm creating artwork, there's 2 different types. And there might even be 3 different types, depending on what the needs are. There's a very low resolution image. There's a medium resolution, and then there's a high resolution. And the high resolution is the resolution that actually goes to the printer. And that could be several megabytes large to go to the printer. And I usually run those depending on how many layers I've used in the file, depending on what type of artistry I've done within the file itself. If it's a pretty heavy file, then I'll keep it at 300 dots per inch at 300 DPI. If it's a pretty straightforward, it's not a vector. It's pixel. It's not anything too complex. Then I'll bump those up to about 400 DPI, because I want to make sure that it's as detailed as possible. So when the printer gets it, they won't have any problems with resolution on their end, because they can always scale back a little. The problem comes with having to scale up. You always have to go back in and regenerate the file. And you have to sort of know how that's going to affect your art if you have to do that. So that's why it's so important to get the base of the file correct to begin with, because you don't want to have to come in and regenerate the file and resample it, and it stretches, and it's less complicated to do it from the beginning the correct way. And so I take those, I separate that file. I'll have my printer file, and that file will be a file I don't touch, because I don't want to go in and out of it too much, and I don't want to create any unnecessary artifacts. And so once I create a high resolution printer file, then I usually will create a separate file, and that will be sort of my working duplicate. If I need to run additional copies, blah, 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 whatever it is, then I will do that from a separate file. So once I get my printer's file the way it is, I don't touch that printer's file. I print it up, send it off, and then I keep it locked up, per se. So it stays as clean as possible. And then I run, I'll do a low grade or a low resolution file for things like, put your watermark on it or whatever, and then go send it off to people to show them Instagram, social media. And you only need, a 75 to 150 DPI is more than enough for that. That's fine, because it's not how big the file is. It's, often how large the file is. So I usually set it at maybe whatever the lowest ratio is that I'm working in. So if, say I think it's like a 3:2 ratio, then that's like a 9:12. So I'll do a 150 DPI 9:12, and that's perfect for almost anything online. And it's a small file.
So I noticed that when with digital work, as you kind of pointed out, it can be very formulaic. It's very step by step, especially a lot. The digital artists have gotten a lot of this stuff kind of down pat, right? They know what the outcomes are going to be if they do said steps from the beginning to end. Do you from my experience, I know that near the end, the very first few steps for me, when I do a piece, I know I have to do this, and three perfect steps. And then after, when I start going to the closer to the end, which usually takes the longest amount of time, I can get 50% of it done, 75% done, and the last 50 to 25% takes the longest amount of time, because it's the most labor intensive. And I find that it can be the most foreign to me, where I'm okay, I'm going past what I normally do. I'm learning. Because of the learning curve. I start learning new things, and I get better. And because I get better, the last half gets longer, and I'm doing a little bit of experimentation, right? Do you have that occurring with your work? Oh God, I can do this. I used to, a year ago, I used to be able to do this in this amount of time. Now I can do it in 25% less amount of time. It's that they should take me 5 hours, and I do it in an hour and a half, and then now I'm doing newer things. Are there, from my experience, the digital realm almost has too many options with the things that you can do. You can just keep tweaking one brush indefinitely until whenever, right?
It's so much fun, though. I mean, I enjoy it. I enjoy doing that as much as the traditional art that I was trained to do. It's just literally wrapping your brain around what it is you feel like doing in that moment and why.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing is why. I think that I do my artwork, my acrylic artwork, for different reasons than I do the, my digital based artwork. So, and you're right. You can kind of get sucked into this vortex of selections and choices, and it's like being in a candy store sometimes. Like I will open up an app, like I opened up I work on Adobe. I've been on Adobe for years actually, and I'm opened up Fresco. Do you do digital work also, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I opened up Fresco, and they had some sort of new brushes, and I was just like, oh, it was like candy, like, oh my gosh. And you're just like, so yes, I tend to get sort of lost in that sometimes, and I really do have to say, okay, I have to put this away now because this is a lot of fun, but I have to go back to work now and do this now. But I leave time to explore and stuff because that's fun. I mean, it's like going to, getting new paints and stuff and looking at all the colors. And I'm just so fascinated with certain styles right now that it's very it's cathartic too. So I enjoy it.
So tell me some of the techniques that you use that are involved in some of your paintings. Are there any special techniques that you don't know, that you don't want to tell? That you're going to tell? Right? Secrets?
I don't have any secrets. I think it's all pretty traditional. I love working with palette. Right now, I literally have a canvas in my studio space that it's literally a blank white huge canvas that I know exactly what I'm going to do with it. Literally, I just haven't had the time to actually like paint on it because I've been doing so many digital things. But I like the artwork that I'm doing right now. I'm fascinated with art pours right now. That's like this big thing in my head right now. And combining not just the paint, but metallics or material flakes with it. Like I have like, I don't know if you can't see that one too well in the back, but like right now I'm doing like metallic work and cell work, and you can kind of see it.
Yeah, like, I can. Like
this kind of, yeah, it's like this is all metallic-y. And then there's like I'm doing smaller installations right now. I'm doing one for our home because I've incorporated aspects of our interior colors in our home, and you can see like there's like flecks at the bottom, sparkles. It's not glitter. It's not glitter. I can't work with glitter. Glitter gets everywhere. I found
it does.
It's horrible. I refuse to work with glitter. You will see glitter 3 weeks later. Yes, but you know what? I will give you a secret.
Secret.
Okay, here's what I use. It's larger than glitter. It comes off. You can see it on camera. You can't usually see glitter like this on camera, right? Yeah. These are really big flakes, but you can see them, and when they're on the wall, you can see it. And you know what it is? It's makeup flakes. Makeup.
So I'm gonna have to go to the makeup aisle. Is there a specific aisle that you have to look it up at? Where would I go? Literally, to get makeup flakes.
Makeup glitter. It's makeup glitter. It's designed to be easier to work with because girls are putting it on their face. So it doesn't it doesn't dig into things the way glitter does. Glitter
Okay.
is so small, and it has a
Uh-huh.
tendency, whatever it's created with sticks to things because of static electricity. Like it will just, you can't like rub glitter off sometimes. It's annoying.
Yeah.
This comes up so easily. And it does what you want it to do, and that's create a glittery effect. And I literally went on Amazon and looked up makeup glitter, and I got like a huge palette of all these different colors. I think I've got them sitting over there. I think I've got like 25 or 30 different colors that came in the palette for $20 or something. And
makeup glitter.
And I have sealed it. You can seal it with varnish, and it doesn't melt or anything, because this one is sealed under varnish. Maybe you can see it. Yeah, this is sealed under varnish. And can you see the glitter? Yeah. And this is a high gloss surface, and it's perfectly fine. And it came right up, off my table, off my carpet. I didn't have any problems with it.
Well, so my studio's, that's a great studio. I wrote it down. It's right on this little piece of paper here that I'll probably lose, but I'll
just call me and say, what was it that you had?
Yeah. But yeah, my whole
wife, I'm sure she'll know.
My studio is also doubles as a gym, so like there's chalk and glitter everywhere. So like there's weightlifting chalk and there's glitter. I don't even mind anymore. I'll sweep it up as the best that I can, but I'm not too worried about it. So that is a really that is clever. I would never have thought about that. Like I've encountered people tell me about like spray glitter, Elmer's glue glitter.
I've tried them all.
Yeah,
not good.
So what other things? What other techniques do you have that you would like to divulge, if you have any?
I've got lots of techniques. I guess it depends on what it is. Trying to think of something offhand. I had a couple of techniques. I'm trying to remember like which ones I like to use. I like to use palette knife because it's just easier to clean. I've ruined so many brushes because I literally put them down and I'll get called away from something and come back and the brushes, especially in varnish, like if you don't wash that brush right away or soak it or something, it's, the varnish will just, it's done. So I have to make sure that I pay attention to that. I'll tell you, I'm looking right at it over there. I've got what's called a brush pucks. Have you heard of that? And it's been helpful. Puck. Paint pucks.
A paint
literally
puck.
Paint puck. I'm looking at it. I wish I could show it to you. Literally, it's like this big, and it's silicone.
Okay.
And it sticks to the bottom of your water container for your brushes when you're painting. And all you do is when you want to clean your brush before you go into your next paint, or you're just cleaning up or whatever, run your brush over the bottom with the paint puck and it instantly cleans off your brush. It's like really helpful. I like it. So it's called a paint puck.
I'll look into that. Yeah.
So I like those. That's a little tip. What else? Other than that, I'm when I'm painting, I'm pretty messy. I have to have, the usual aprons and stuff, and my walls are destroyed already. So, paint all over them. My husband said, "Here, you can take the basement room. Just I don't want to see it anymore. I don't want to see it anymore." So just go in there, and I made a happy little room for myself. So it's where I come to do my artwork. So it's fun. So those are my tips right now. Yeah, I love my paint puck and my makeup glitter, and just experimenting, just figuring out what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. Karlana, clearly you're very efficient. Or you're like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not efficient at all. But no, you come off as very, very efficient, and like I'm actually like it's actually a compliment. Don't take it like this guy's calling me too efficient. I don't like it.
Well, that's not artsy at all.
No, so I've learned habits help me be more efficient. Like I've kind of ingrained it in myself to get a lot done in the morning because like life kicks me in the like punches me in the face and says you're not getting anything done after this time. I'm like, no, let me do some more, just 30 more minutes, please, life. And they're like, no, life saying you can't do anything now because I own you. And like, okay, fine, I'll go do stuff that you want me to do. So the habits help me do that. So do you have any like habits that you've established or like or time management hacks that you've kind of built up into your lifestyle, into your system, that have helped you along the way with your career?
Oh, okay. Career. Yeah.
Career, art, career, or life. It doesn't matter. Like,
I was just commenting on, my niece has a private Facebook group, and I was just commenting for us to all kind of get together and stay healthy, which I totally need, because sometimes I just need a kick in the butt. And I was going to say kick in the puck, right? The little water puck. But yeah, and it's been like, thank heavens that she put it out there, because it has been helpful to me. And I do have a trick, going back to what you were saying about trying to work out and stay healthy. I know that if I get to bed and I'm tired, I just won't get myself up to work out. And if I do, like I said, I will give myself 30 minutes and that's it. And I just feel like sometimes it's an absolute waste of time to get out of bed, go change out of your pajamas to go change into some workout clothes, go downstairs or wherever and go work out in your house. If you're going to work out in your house, and then come back upstairs after your workout, change, shower, and it's all just like a waste of time. So if I know I want to make myself get up and work out the next day, I will go and get a clean set of workout clothes and sleep in the workout clothes the night before, and then get up, grab my water bottle, and go straight to working out. That's it. And then I'm done 20, 25 minutes, half an hour, whatever. And now I go and take a shower and change and ready for my day. I feel like if I do that, I have no excuses. I can just roll out of bed and just start working out. Because if I start to look at my phone will blow up and then that will be it. Or if I have to hurry up with my kids and start their day, that's going to be it. There's too many really good excuses as to why I can't. So I have to combat that somehow and say, okay, well, yeah, I've got 3 kids. It's everybody's got stuff. Everybody's got stuff to do. Some people have a little bit more than others, but everybody's got a really good reason not to do something. So I had to figure out how I'm going to fight against that. And for me, it's a hack that works. Because now I wake up, I'm already in my workout clothes. I don't have an excuse not to do it now.
Good to go.
So I get it done, and then I start my day.
What was it like? I've heard some quotes like, if you win the morning, you win the day. Like, are you something like that? Like, does that make sense to you?
It does, but it doesn't really apply to me because I'm a night owl. I'm up all day, all night, so I'm winning regardless.
So you before we even started this conversation, I talked about how I have this question. I just don't. I'm gonna bring it up. Like I was like, I don't like asking it because it always ends up falling short. Like this is it's just a bad question. But I'm gonna do it anyways. We're gonna see what happens. I'm like that's like the definition of insanity. I'm just gonna keep doing it until maybe it works. The outcomes are the same. So you have some marketing experience, and you've established that. What's some things that artists can do today? Like maybe like some like 3 actionable things an artist can do to boost their marketing game for the week or the day or the month. Something like that. Or if it would make it easier, we could have 7 things. Right?
7 things. Wow.
Uh-oh.
Wait, yeah. Say that again. Repeat that question.
What would be like 3, let's make it simple. It's like, what are 3 marketing tips that you can give to artists that would help them today and benefit them for the week and really make significant gains for them in a month?
Well, there's nothing that can do just 3 things that's going to give them any traction in the market.
Darn.
There isn't. But you know this, right? I think you and I know this. There's nothing there's no magic pill. There's no no, I wish there was, but there isn't. There's nothing, there's no 1 or 2 or 3 things that you do just 1, 2 or 3 times that create any lasting relationship or any lasting traction on social media. There isn't. It's all predicated on slow and steady building, and you're building relationships, you're building contacts, you're building information, you're building communication blocks. You're doing all of these steps to build traction in marketing. So there isn't any. I mean, I could give you some, warm fuzzy,
I want some warm fuzzy marketing tips.
Warm fuzzy marketing tip that's not really going to do anything in the immediate. But if I were to say anything, I'd say number 1, get out of your comfort zone. As an artist, get out of your comfort zone, because I feel like creatives do what they know how to do, because number 1, in their area or in their universe, it might be working for you now, but with all things come change. And the biggest change has been what? What has been the biggest change over the past year? COVID. And I can't tell you how many artists I know, how many photographers I know that were, like everyone else, completely knocked out for a long period of time because they I have coined this phrase, online sustainable. And a huge part of that is getting out of your comfort zone and doing things that lend itself to marketing and exposure, and doing those other things that build upon relationships and all the things that you're talking about that encompass marketing. So, I mean, you start to build relationships and you start to build these things, all those other pieces kind of fit into that. So yeah, get out of your comfort zone, start doing things that make you feel that make you feel uncomfortable, because that's number one, how we grow.
Yeah.
Right?
I totally agree.
We can't grow as artists if we don't allow ourselves to put ourselves out there and, good, bad, or ugly, expose ourselves to new experiences and then reflect that in our art. So that's number one. Number two, I'd say, don't be afraid of failure. You're never going to grow and get what you perceive as your success if you're not willing to risk failure. I think that's scary. That's, I mean, it's especially scary for people that don't have, that may not have the luxury of risking that. I understand that I'm enormously fortunate to have a fantastic family, a wonderful husband, and kids that are my cheerleaders, that support what I do. They think it's, fun, and they love what that represents. And I understand that a lot of people don't have those perceived luxuries. And to that, I would say, do your best to do it anyway, because failure, when we fail at something, when we crash and burn, when we embarrass ourselves, we learn something, hopefully, from that. And whatever it is that you've learned from that, that's where the gold is. And so if you can take that and do better, change, you've just moved the needle for yourself. And if you put yourself in a position where you have to do it, do or die, because failure means critical, a critical explosion of some kind, you'd be surprised at the type of energy that creates towards success. Yeah. So a lot of times we're not successful because energy is momentum. And sometimes, as weird as it sounds, the risk of failure creates that momentum, because you're in a position where now you've got to succeed, or all hell's going to, you know what I mean, fall apart or break up or end, or whatever the case may be. And it's sometimes when your back is to the wall, that is where that's where you know who you are. So I say, don't be afraid of taking risks. Don't be afraid of failure to move your goals forward. And number three, do unto others as you would have done unto you. You get what you give in this world. So if you live for only you, you will die only you. You will only have you, and that's it. So we have to, in our success, hopefully bring others with us, and hopefully share in that, and be generous with that, because you get what you give in life. So, that's what I hopefully, live by. And that's what, my husband and we teach our kids that. So I've got to be a model for that too, because I want my kids to look back and say, yeah, I'm proud of what she did. And there was meaning behind it, and there was, kindness behind it. That's, if without that, I don't even know what it's really worth.
Those are very inspirational, like philosophical, like statements, like ideas, and I agree with them 100%. Like I teach art, college art, and I tell these things, those that type of ideology, like type of idea, and like they're like outlandish to them, like they're so concerned with their grade, right? I'm like, don't even worry about the grade. Like what matters is the outcome. Like what you learn from it. Like they're so concerned with the grade that they'll go and look at my artwork and they're like, this guy wants this type of work coming out onto this assignment. Like, no, I don't want any of that. I want you to take the parameters and do what you think is necessary. I don't want you to do like my voice of art on your. I don't want you to recreate your my voice or like my nuances through your hand. And they're always so worried about failing or making a mistake. Like, listen, that's make those mistakes. Go to that edge. Go to that edge of the unknown with your work. Right. A lot of the artists are very familiar with the comic and the manga art. They're really, really well versed in that. They can recreate a Naruto character like the verbatim, like the cartoon, but it's not their idea, and it's a recreation, it's a copy, right? They can do that, but like when you tell them like, okay, now make your own character, and they're like, I don't know how to do that. It's so hard. It's like I can't. It's like, or break that, make an abstract version of that character so like people can say this is that Naruto. Like that looks like a Picasso Naruto right there, like that's pretty good. Like they don't want this fear of making a mistake is I think is a mental state that they need to that needs to be remedied or looked at least reviewed, because art is, every artwork can be like a mistake, right? It's always, I always say this to myself sometimes, like all my art is a failure, like but each one's a little bit less of a failure, right? A little bit better than the previous, right? And I think I heard this quote, and I think I kind of transplant this idea as like fail again, fail better, right?
Yeah.
So like you got to make those mistakes. And that's kind of funny. You pretty much answered some of the questions I was going to ask near the end. But let's see if we can kind of maybe pull out a little bit more that isn't as maybe might get a different result, a different answer. So like the question I was going to ask after that, like that came from the marketing type of question, because you went really philosophical with it. The question which is great. I love it. The question I was going to ask is like, what advice can you give to like an artist. They don't have any age, right? Like someone retires and like, it's like I've been drilling lug nuts into tires for 30 years at GM. I've always wanted to pick up the paintbrush or whatever, or photograph things. What kind of advice can you give to an artist of any stage, like amateur, like, pro, like legend, whatever it is, if there's a legendary artist, I don't know, that goes beyond like follow your passion.
Okay, what advice could I give any artist at any stage when they're entering into their new art?
Sure, it could be that. It could be that
Or-
their entrance, like, or they're well known, or they're internationally known as well, and they're doing really, really well off. But maybe there's something that sometimes, like, artists can be so successful that they don't want to accept, like, or in any field, someone can be so successful where they can't think that advice from a person that is below them on the hierarchy scale of like what field could be valid, right? And I think that's also another fundamental flaw. Like, when you get so good, you don't think anyone that might be at a lower skill might have anything to provide to you. And I like to look at it as I know a lot about one specific thing, but I don't know everything. And so I always like, if a student has suggestions about art or positive critiques, I'm like, yeah, that's really interesting. That's actually a good point. While other people might just shrug that off, right? Anyways, I digress. It could be anywhere, any area, point in life, career-wise, within the art field.
Well, if I had to give one piece of advice to anyone in the art field, that's like a huge, span of different levels. Because my advice for someone just starting out might be different from somebody who's been doing it for a while, depending on what it is. But I would say, overall, if I had to just sort of give my best, advice in general to anyone that's starting their passion, I would say, don't be afraid. Someone very smart said this to me when I was just starting out, and I kept this with me the entire time. So whenever I do something, whenever I meet someone, or if I, if I meet people who are really talented or whatever the case is, they said to me, don't be afraid to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. And what they meant by that was not that I'm not as smart as the people that I'm with, but everyone brings something to the table. Don't isolate yourself, no matter where you are on that timeline for your career. Don't isolate yourself from people who have been there, done that, or who are doing what you want to do in the future. So I never took that as some sort of, dig or anything. That was like the best advice. And that was one of my bosses. I worked for a technical firm years ago in my corporate phase, and he owned the company, and it was an IT corporation. And he would pull me aside every once in a while and have these conversations. He was a really nice guy. He was very he thought about things. And I don't know how the conversation came up, but that was the advice he gave me. He said, you've got drive. Don't be afraid to be in a room with people who know more than you do.
Yeah.
And I do. I always look at who is doing what I want to do a year from now, 2 years from now, whatever the case is. And I research who they are, what they did, how they think, where they are in that, and how did they get to that point. And that's what I learned from. And for me, it includes, a process. I know that I work better if I have templates and processes, and I can just move in and out of those so that I can save time. So you have to find what works with you and what works with how you want to develop, and learn from those that are doing it. That was like the best advice, and I've used that advice constantly, because I believe that everyone has something to share, and it's okay to learn from each other in the process.
What was it? I heard like that brings up two quotes that I heard. Like one was, "You are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with." I think that something like that. So like if you surround yourself with people that are better than you in some ways, they will bring you up. They'll lift you up, right? And then if you, it's just the same thing as if you surround yourself with people that aren't or who are getting into who party too much, right? They treat it like it's a vacation, and live for a Friday evening or Friday cocktails, right? Like that those actions can add up, like with interest, right? And then there was another one. It just escaped me. I'm sorry, it's gone. It's gone. The other one was gone. I went on a silly little rant about the average of 5 people, and then the other one's gone. Oh, it was there's always there's always a person that is a master of something that you aren't, or like something along those lines, where like there's always, no matter how skilled you are at something, there's always going to be someone that is a master over you, over it. Like they're like better than you, like skill wise, or with like just knowledge in some other field that you think that you're the bee's knees in. I don't know. I'm probably like destroying that quote, so it probably comes off really bad sounding.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I like, so really, it's a really bad versions of Cliff Notes. That's all I gotta say. It's a bad Cliff Note quote. I'm sorry. I also heard "Don't apologize too much," so I apologize. So the last question again was basically some life advice. I don't know what else you can give. You've kind of really hit the marker on a lot of these things. But if you have anything left in the tank with as far as life advice, feel free to share it. If not, we'll just have a brief, like, was it dead air? We'll have dead air space. Starting now. No. Do you have any more life advice that you could share, or do you feel that you've kind of saturated it?
I don't know. I think I've covered it pretty good. I mean,
yeah.
It's there's always more things, but it's like a lot of that you kind of have to discover on your own too.
Yeah.
I feel. I mean, I can spout out advice and all that stuff, but it really comes to putting things into action and then going from there. So I say do the best you can with what you have to work with and maximize that. because that's
Yeah.
that's the most important. You use what you have right now.
Yeah.
And move forward with that. Whether it's, you know, just starting out in your art career and your creative career, you know, research, educate yourself on what it is you want to do and how you want to accomplish it, and map out your steps on what it is you need to do to get there. And then I feel like when you write things down and you create a plan for yourself, you remind yourself to work on these things subconsciously, even.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you don't, then I feel like it just escapes into the atmosphere. Writing it down and posting it up, or putting it in an area near your desk where you see those steps that need to get done every day, whether it's just one thing on that list of 7 that moves you towards your goals, it's there. So it serves as a reminder to continue. A lot of times I if I don't write my list down for the next day, I'm sleep is like the motivating factor to, you know, if I say, oh yeah, that's right, I have blah, 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 or this and this and this that I have to get done today, then my brain says, okay, well, to get that done, you got to get up out of bed early, or earlier than your schedule, because you know you've got this, this, and this to accomplish. But if I don't have that written down, you know, then I'm not getting up an hour early before bed because, you know, I'm tired, or, you know, I already know in my head that I don't have to wake up until 7:30 because the kids don't need me at 7:30, but I have to replace that with something else that needs me more to get, you know, because it's a mind game. It's a mind game. So I have to play with my head and say, it's not just me getting up for my kids. I have to get up early to get this done too. Or what I'm working on now is I have to go to bed on time and not be such a night owl, because I do want to shift my schedule to get up early. You know, so that's, you know, but that's a personal preference. So again, you got to work with what you've got.
Karlana,
Make it happen.
Karlana, where can people find you? Where are you? Where are you online on the interwebs?
On the interwebs, you can find my art gallery at Karlana.com. And Karlana.com. And that's where my art lives. And that's where all my fun is. My personal art and my commissions are on a separate website for art on demand, and that's AOD.com. But my primary gallery is Karlana.com.
What about social media? Do you have any presence on social media?
I do. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. Those are the big 3.
Like what names are, what handles?
Oh, Karlana Pedersen. So Instagram is Karlana Pedersen, and Facebook is Karlana Pedersen Art, and LinkedIn is Karlana Pedersen. So you can find me using those handles.
Sorry. So I noticed that we have a few people watching. Awesome. Super excited about that. Does anyone have any questions for Karlana before we end this live stream? We'll take a few moments while anyone is typing. I just want to say, Karlana, really do appreciate you. Really do. I'm very thankful for the time that you have given to this interview. I learned a lot, you know. I like hearing different viewpoints from different artists, and it's just quite a privilege. It was nice hearing more about your stories and your experiences. I really just want to say I'm quite thankful that you did this, and it was really nice of you. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me. I really
you.
enjoyed my time, and you, yes, some of the questions were I really was like, wow, great questions. I was not prepared for such a intellectual conversation, and I'm very, very happy that you invited me. Thank you so much. It really was a pleasure talking with you. I enjoyed it, and I'll be calling you. I hope that you will be on our show as well.
Yes. To answer your question, this will be uploaded on YouTube. It's on my Facebook page and on YouTube, and I will be sharing the video to Carla, and Carla will be doing whatever she wants to do with it. So she might have it on her platform as well. I don't know, but it will be up on Facebook, on my website, not my website, on Facebook's page and on YouTube. By the way, for those that are watching and anyone that happens to stumble upon this, I have artist interviews every Thursday, at least until December 3rd. And if I can keep getting more, it's going to keep going indefinitely. So don't forget to subscribe. I almost slurred there. I told you I stutter and slur. Don't forget to subscribe.
I think I did the same thing the whole show.
Yeah. Don't forget to subscribe and to follow and like, right? I really do appreciate each and every one of you, because obviously we got to be we got to be doing some interesting stuff to have someone listen for more than 30 seconds. So I'm really glad that everyone watched, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much, everyone. I guess we're done. I'm going to hit the little end video, and I think that's what we do. Right? I'm doing karate chops. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night.